The river was the last thing I saw in my first life. Not the water itself, but the way it shone beneath the emergency lights while my father lay on a stretcher with blood running from his ear. Someone kept shouting that he had hurt the girl. Someone else was filming. My father was trying to sit up even though the paramedic had one hand on his chest. "I pulled her out," he kept saying. No one seemed to hear him. The girl he had saved was already wrapped in a silver thermal blanket. Her mother was kneeling beside her, crying loudly enough for every phone on the riverwalk to catch it. Her father pointed at my dad and yelled, "He slammed her into the rocks." That was the beginning. It took less than 10 minutes to turn a rescue into an accusation. It took 6 months to put my father on administrative leave. It took 11 months to drain his savings. It took 2 years to break the man I had once believed nothing could break. By the time the civil case ended, the Carter family had become local celebrities. Their attorney gave interviews about reckless police intervention. Edited clips spread online showing only the moment my father dragged Lily Carter onto the embankment and pinned her shoulders down while she coughed up water. The seconds before that, when she had stopped responding and nearly slipped beneath the current, were missing. The emergency dispatcher's warnings about the flooded river were barely mentioned. The fact that her own family had screamed for my father to jump in was treated like background noise. The city settled without admitting wrongdoing. My father resigned before the department could decide whether to return him to duty. His damaged shoulder never healed correctly. Neither did the nerve injury in his right hand. He stopped fishing. He stopped fixing things around the house. He stopped carrying his coffee with that hand because he dropped the mug twice and shattered it. Then, 3 years after the river, he suffered a massive cardiac event while shoveling snow from our front steps. The doctor said there were many risk factors. I knew what one of them was. He had spent 3 years living as if the world had convicted him. I found the truth 2 months after his funeral. It was not dramatic. There was no secret confession. There was a cloud backup. Lily's older brother had replaced his phone and forgotten that an old family group chat still synchronized to a shared tablet he later sold. The buyer found screenshots and reported them after recognizing the Carter name from the lawsuit. The messages were time-stamped before the accident. Her mother wrote, "If Dawson jumps in, keep filming." Her father wrote, "He will." Lily's brother replied, "Make sure you get the part where he grabs her." Lily herself wrote, "How far do I have to go?" Her mother answered, "Just past the warning sign." Then came the sentence that had hollowed me out. "It only has to look bad for 30 seconds. They had not planned for Lily to truly drown. They had planned for my father to react. They knew he was an off-duty police sergeant. They knew he had been involved in a controversial arrest the year before, which had made the city especially sensitive to complaints about him. What I did not understand then was that Paul Carter also had a separate history with my father from 4 years earlier. They wanted a filmed confrontation and a settlement. The current had been stronger than they expected. Their staged distress had become real. My father had saved Lily anyway. And they had used the rescue as the trap they originally intended. The reopened investigation cleared his name 18 months after he died. I stood at his grave with a copy of the report in my hand and realized justice could arrive so late that it felt like another insult. That night, I fell asleep on his old couch with the report open on my chest. When I woke, my father was in the kitchen. Alive. He was humming badly. The sound stopped my heart. I sat up so fast the report slid to the floor. Except it was not the report. It was a grocery circular. My father leaned around the doorway. "Claire?" I could not speak. He was 52 again. His hair had not yet gone completely gray at the temples. His right hand was steady around a coffee mug. No tremor. No scar along his thumb. No stiffness in his shoulder. He frowned. You okay? I stood. My knees nearly gave out. I crossed the room and wrapped both arms around him. Coffee sloshed onto the floor. Whoa. He laughed once, confused. Good morning to you too. I pressed my face against his shoulder. He was warm. Alive. Annoyed because I was squeezing him too hard. The ordinary miracle of it broke me. Dad. Yeah. Dad. I'm still Dad. He shifted the mug into his other hand. What happened? I pulled back. The kitchen calendar was behind him. Saturday, May 16th. My stomach dropped. The day of the Riverfront Spring Festival. The day Lily Carter went into the water. I grabbed my phone from the couch. 7:14 a.m. I had less than 7 hours. My father watched me. Claire, seriously. I had a nightmare. That explains the strangling hug. I looked at him. In my first life, he had been off duty that afternoon. He took me to the festival because I had complained we never did anything together anymore. We bought fried dough. He mocked the cover band. At 2:08 p.m. A teenage girl screamed near the old pedestrian bridge. At 2:09, Lily Carter was in the river. At 2:10, her mother pointed at my father and screamed, "You're a cop, do something." He had stripped off his jacket and jumped. This time, he would not. I did not know how I was going to stop him yet. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. My father was not going into that river. Not alone. Not without equipment. Not because a stranger had decided his life was an acceptable tool. Dad. He raised an eyebrow. What? Promise me something. Depends. If there's an emergency today, don't rush in without backup. He stared at me. That is weirdly specific. I mean it. Claire, I've been a cop for 27 years. Then you know scene safety comes first. His expression changed. Now I had his attention. That sounds like something from one of my training manuals. Because it's true. He set the mug down. What was the nightmare? I almost told him everything. Then I imagined how it would sound. Dad, a family is going to stage a drowning because they want to bait you into a lawsuit, and I know because I lived through your death. He would think I needed a hospital before lunch. More importantly, if I changed too much too early, I did not know what the Carter family would do. I knew one previous timeline. I did not know every possible future. I dreamed you got hurt trying to rescue someone. His face softened. That's all? That was enough. He smiled. I'll be careful. It was not enough. Careful people still acted on instinct. My father's instinct was to move toward danger. So I needed more than a promise. I needed a plan. I needed evidence. And most of all, I needed to remove him from the exact position the Carter family expected him to occupy. I went upstairs and opened my laptop. In my first life, the Carter trap depended on 3 things. My father being identifiable as a police officer. My father reaching the scene before trained water rescue. And the family controlling the first video. I could change all 3. The festival started at noon. The river walk had been partly closed because spring rain had raised the river 2 feet above normal. City signs clearly marked the lower embankment as restricted. The fire department's water rescue unit was stationed 6 blocks away as part of festival safety. That fact had barely mattered in the first life because my father entered the water before dispatch even finished assigning the call. This time, the professionals would get their chance. At 7:42, I opened the city festival page and took screenshots of the safety notice. No swimming. No access beyond marked barriers. Emergency rescue personnel stationed at East Dock. At 7:49, I emailed the festival safety address. I did not accuse anyone. I did not invent a threat. I wrote that I had concerns about teenagers entering the restricted riverbank during crowded events and asked whether barriers near the old pedestrian bridge would be staffed. The reply came at 8:17. Thanks for flagging this. We have event security assigned to that sector and will remind them to monitor the restricted embankment. That was one change. At 8:22, I texted my friend Maya, who volunteered with the festival information booth and helped route media uploads during busy event shifts. Me, random question. Me, are there throwable flotation rings near the old bridge? Maya, yes. Maya, why are you asking like a murderer? Me, safety nerd moment. Maya, there are 2 cabinets. Maya, one by the bridge stairs and one near the bike station. I saved the message. At 8:40, I walked downstairs. My father was reading the newspaper. Still going to the festival? He looked over the top. I thought that was the plan. I want to drive. That's a terrifying sentence. I'm serious. Why? Because I want your track keys. He narrowed his eyes. Are you planning to steal my identity too? No. I sat across from him. And wear a sweatshirt. It's 70 degrees. Wear one anyway. Claire. Please. He studied me for several seconds. Then he folded the newspaper. You know something you're not telling me. My throat tightened. I know I'm scared. That was true. His face softened again. He reached across the table and squeezed my wrist. Okay. Okay, what? You drive. And the sweatshirt? He sighed. The sweatshirt too. In my first life, he had worn an old department charity polo with the police shield printed on the chest. That was how Lily's mother identified him from across the crowd. This time, I gave him a plain navy hoodie. It would not make him invisible. Half the town knew Sergeant Michael Dawson. But it would remove the easiest cue. At 11:36, we parked 2 blocks from the river. My pulse was already too fast. Dad noticed. You sure you want to do this? Yes. We can go home. No. The answer came too quickly. He frowned. I forced myself to breathe. Going home would protect him for one afternoon. It would not tell me whether the Carters would try again tomorrow, at another event, or somewhere without barriers, witnesses, and a rescue unit 6 blocks away. If they were going to move, I wanted them to do it where professionals were already close and where I could document the entire attempt. I'm okay. He looked unconvinced. We entered the festival. Music carried across the river walk. Children ran between food stalls. The smell of grilled onions and kettle corn mixed with damp river air. Everything looked exactly the way I remembered. That frightened me more than if it had looked different. At 12:14, we passed the old pedestrian bridge. The lower embankment was blocked with waist-high metal barricades. A yellow sign read "High water, keep out." An event security volunteer stood nearby. Good. At 12:41, my father bought lemonade. At 1:03, we sat on a bench near the stage. At 1:27, he asked why I had checked my phone 20 times. At 1:45, I saw the Carter family. My body reacted before my mind did. My hands went cold. Lily was 17. She wore denim shorts, a red tank top, and white sneakers. Her mother, Denise Carter, carried a large canvas tote. Her father, Paul, wore mirrored sunglasses. Her brother, Kyle, held his phone horizontally even though nothing interesting was happening. They were laughing. Normal. Relaxed. A family at a festival. Except I knew what lived inside their group chat. I knew Denise had once typed, "It only has to look bad for 30 seconds. I gripped the edge of the bench. Dad followed my stare. "You know them?" "No." "Then why are you looking at them like that?" I thought I recognized someone. Kyle lifted his phone. Not at the stage. At the river. My heart slammed. It was starting. I checked the time. 1:51. 17 minutes earlier than before. The future had already shifted. I stood. Dad looked up. "Where are you going?" "To get closer to the bridge." "Why?" "I want to see the river." "That is the least convincing thing you've said all day." I did not answer. We moved toward the old bridge. The Carter family drifted ahead of us. Denise looked around twice. Paul checked the security volunteer. Then something changed. The volunteer was called away by radio. A child had been separated from his parents near the food court. The bridge sector was suddenly unstaffed. In my first life, there had been no volunteer at all. My email had changed something, but not enough. Lily stepped around the barricade. My father immediately noticed. "Hey." His voice sharpened. "You can't go down there." Lily turned. For one fraction of a second, surprise flashed across her face. Then Denise looked at my father. Her gaze dropped to his plain sweatshirt. For half a second, she performed uncertainty for everyone watching, as if she were only now trying to place his face. But I had seen Kyle tracking us. I knew better. "Lily," she called. "Come back." The performance had begun. Lily took another step down the slick concrete. Kyle's phone came up. I pulled mine out too. Not to film a spectacle. To document the whole timeline. My father moved toward the barricade. "Miss, stop where you are." Lily looked over her shoulder. Her shoe slid. This part had been planned. I knew because of the messages. But the river did not care what was planned. Her second foot slipped for real. She dropped hard onto one knee. Then momentum carried her down the wet slope. She grabbed the railing. For a second, she hung there. Denise screamed. "Lily!" Kyle kept filming. Paul ran forward. Lily's hand slipped. She hit the water. The sound was smaller than I remembered. A splash. Then a scream. My father reached for the barricade. I grabbed his arm with both hands. "No." He stared at me. "Claire. She's in the water." I know. I can reach her. No, you can't. I stopped my video and called 911 on speaker before he could move again. Emergency services. A girl is in the river at the old pedestrian bridge during the spring festival. Is she conscious? Yes. The current dragged Lily away from the embankment. She's moving downstream. Do not enter the water. I looked at my father. The dispatcher repeated it. Do not enter the water. His jaw tightened. I hear you. Denise heard the exchange. She looked straight at my father and raised her voice for the phones around us. Sergeant Dawson? The name landed exactly where she wanted it to. You're a cop. She pointed at the river. Save my daughter. My father shifted toward the barricade again. I stepped in front of him and shoved the red emergency cabinet open with one hand while keeping the phone on speaker. Inside was a life ring attached to a long rope. I pulled it free. Dad, use this. Lily surfaced roughly 20 yards downstream. She was screaming now. Not acting. Help! I handed my father the ring. His training finally overrode instinct. He planted his feet. Lily. She turned toward the sound. Grab the ring. He threw. The first toss fell short. He hauled it back. The dispatcher asked whether flotation had been deployed. Yes. My father is using the emergency life ring. Good. Water rescue is already assigned. Denise screamed behind us. Jump in. My father ignored her. He threw again. This time the ring landed just beyond Lily. She reached. Missed. Kyle shouted, he's not even trying. I looked directly at his phone. Keep recording. He froze. That was not what he expected. Sirens sounded in the distance. Denise grabbed my sleeve. You're stopping him. I pulled away. I'm stopping another victim. My daughter is drowning. And rescue is coming. He's a police officer. He is not a water rescue technician. Paul stepped toward my father. You have a duty. My father looked at him. I have a duty not to make this worse. The words hit me so hard I almost cried. Lily disappeared beneath the surface. Denise screamed. My father flinched. I saw the moment instinct nearly won. Then a rescue boat shot around the bend. The fire department's water unit. 2 technicians in dry suits. One pointed. The boat accelerated. Lily surfaced again. A rescuer entered the water tethered to the boat. Within seconds, he had her. My knees nearly gave out. She was alive. My father was alive. No one had traded places with anyone. The boat brought Lily to the east dock where paramedics were waiting. Denise ran after them. Paul followed. Kyle stayed behind for 3 seconds. Long enough to look at my father. Long enough for me to see pure calculation replace panic. Then he raised his phone again. You could have saved her faster. I looked at him. The dispatcher told everyone not to enter the water. You stopped him. Yes. His eyes narrowed. Say that again. I understood. He wanted the clip. He wanted my admission without context. So I gave him context. I stopped my father from entering flood stage water without flotation, tether, or water rescue equipment after emergency dispatch explicitly instructed civilians not to enter. Kyle lowered the phone slightly. That's not what happened. My 911 call recorded it. His face changed. The trap had not collapsed yet. But for the first time, it had missed its mark. The Carter family moved faster than I expected. By 3 o'clock, while Lily was still in the emergency department, a 38-second video appeared online. Kyle had posted it under the caption, "OFF duty cop refuses TO save drowning teen while his daughter holds him back." The clip began with Denise screaming, "You're a cop." It showed me gripping my father's arm. It showed Lily disappearing beneath the surface. Then it cut. Number 911 call. No life ring. No rescue boat. No dispatcher saying not to enter. No second throw. No tethered rescue swimmer. In the first hour, the clip received 14,000 views. By dinner, it had more than 80,000. I knew exactly how dangerous a partial truth could be. My father sat at the kitchen table with his phone face down. I should have gone in. No. He rubbed both hands over his face. She went under. And came back up. I could have reached her. You don't know that. I've pulled people out before. Not that river at flood stage. He looked at me. You knew where the life ring was. Yes. You knew rescue was stationed nearby. Yes. You knew to put 911 on speaker. Yes. His expression tightened. And you knew something was going to happen. My pulse stumbled. I had been waiting for that question. I was afraid something would. That's not an answer. I sat across from him. For one terrible moment, I wanted to tell him everything. His injury. His resignation. His funeral. The cloud backup. The grave. But telling him would not create proof. It would only place a burden on him that he could not verify. I had a nightmare about you getting hurt in the river. He stared at me. That's why you emailed festival safety? I blinked. How do you know that? Lieutenant Perez called. Of course. My email had been forwarded after the incident. He asked whether I knew you had concerns about the bridge. What did you say? That my daughter had been acting like a lunatic since breakfast. Despite everything, I laughed. He did too. Then the humor disappeared. Claire. I saw the high water notice online. Lots of people saw it. I got scared. You got specific. I know. He leaned back. You're leaving something out. I am. His gaze sharpened. But it isn't something I can prove. He was a cop. That phrase mattered to him. What does that mean? It means I need you to trust me for 24 hours. Claire. Please. He looked toward the dark window. Then he nodded once. 24. The department called at 6:10 p.m. Not internal affairs. Not yet. The watch commander. They wanted my father to provide a preliminary account because his police status was already being discussed publicly. He was off duty during the incident, but the city knew the distinction would not matter online. Dad asked if I wanted to come. Yes. You don't have to. I know. At headquarters, Lieutenant Perez met us in a small interview room. He had known my father since academy days. He did not treat him like a suspect. He also did not treat him like a friend. That was exactly what we needed. Walk me through it, he said. Dad did. He included everything. The restricted embankment. Lily's fall. My interference. The life ring. The dispatcher. The water rescue team. When he finished, Perez looked at me. You physically stopped your father from entering the river. Yes. Why? Because he had no flotation device, no tether, no dry suit, and no water rescue team. Are you trained in swift water rescue? No. Then how did you know that was the safer choice? The emergency dispatcher told us not to enter. That happened after you first stopped him. He was good. I folded my hands together. I had looked at the festival safety information that morning. Why? I was anxious about the high water. Why that morning? My father and I were going to the festival. Perez studied me. Did you know the Carter family? No. Had you ever seen Lily Carter before today? No. That answer was technically true in this life. Did you expect someone to enter the water? I was afraid someone might. Why? Because the festival notice specifically warned people away from the lower embankment. He looked at my father. Dad did not rescue me. He let me answer. Good. Perez turned a tablet around. Kyle's video was paused on the frame where I had both hands around Dad's arm. This is already becoming a problem. I know. Do you have your own video? Part of one. I unlocked my phone. I had started recording when the Carter family approached the bridge. My video showed Lily crossing the barricade. It showed the security volunteer leaving before she did. It showed Kyle raising his phone before Lily slipped. That detail mattered. Perez replayed it. When did he start recording? Before she went into the water. Could be normal. Yes. I did not overclaim. That was another lesson from my first life. Evidence became weaker when you forced it to say more than it did. Then I played the 911 recording from my phone's automatic call recording accessibility app. State law allowed one-party consent. The app had been enabled for months because I used it for work calls. The dispatcher's voice was clear. Do not enter the water. The later instruction was even clearer. Water rescue is already assigned. Perez exhaled. That helps. It should be the official 911 system too. It will be. He made a note. Did you deploy the life ring? My father did. Dad nodded. Twice. Perez asked, was Ms. Carter able to reach it? No. Did the ring slow her movement or assist the rescue team? I don't know. Fair. He looked at me. Anything else? Yes. I showed him my 7:49 a.m. email to festival safety and their response. His eyebrows rose. You really were worried. Yes. He read it twice. This can cut both ways. I know. Somebody could say you anticipated a specific incident. I know. Did you? I anticipated dangerous crowd behavior near high water. That was the strongest truthful statement I could support. Perez leaned back. Okay. The interview ended at 8. On the way out, my father stopped in the hallway. You're handling this like an investigator. I grew up with one. That's not what I mean. I looked at him. He touched my shoulder. You're scared, but you're not confused. My throat tightened. I told you I need 24 hours. He nodded. You have 17 left. At 8:34, Maya texted me. Maya, you need to see this. She sent a screenshot from a local community page. A woman named Sarah Kendall had commented beneath Kyle's video. I was standing near the bridge. The girl's brother was filming before she fell. Her family kept telling the cop to jump, and even after someone yelled that rescue was coming. The comment had 53 replies. Half called her a liar. Then another witness replied. I saw that too. Then a third. The narrative was no longer controlled by one phone. I saved everything, but I did not contact the witnesses. I did not want anyone later claiming I coordinated statements. At 9:02, a local reporter emailed my father. At 9:11, another called. At 9:16, the police public information office told him not to comment. At 9:40, the Carter family's attorney issued a statement. Their daughter had suffered hypothermia, aspiration injury, a dislocated shoulder, and severe emotional trauma. They were evaluating potential claims against all responsible parties, including the city and individuals who obstructed immediate life-saving assistance. Individuals. That was me. My father read the statement once. Then he put his phone down. I'm calling a lawyer. Good. He looked at me. You expected this too. I could not answer. At 10:15, we sat in the living room waiting for his attorney to call back. The television was off. At 10:46, Maya called. Her voice was shaking. Claire. What happened? I found something in the festival media queue. I sat up. Maya had volunteered at the information desk, but part of her shift also involved routing approved crowd photos from volunteer contributors to the city's social team. What did you find? There are pictures of your dad. How many? A lot. My father moved closer. Who took them? One photographer tag says KC. Kyle Carter. I stopped breathing. Maya continued. He signed up as a volunteer content contributor this morning. What time? I don't know. Can you check? Give me a second. Keyboard sounds. Registration was submitted at 9:06 a.m. My father held out his hand. I put the call on speaker. Maya said his assignment was supposed to be general crowd photos. Was he assigned to the bridge? Dad asked. No. Did he upload anything before the incident? Yes. Can the city preserve the originals? I think so. Do not download or alter anything yourself. Okay. Email your volunteer supervisor right now and tell them there may be evidence related to an incident. I will. Then she said something that made my pulse jump. Claire, there's another thing. What? Kyle uploaded a photo at 1:43. I looked at Dad. 8 minutes before Lily approached the barricade. What does it show? Your father. Dad's jaw tightened. Doing what? Nothing. Maya sounded confused. He's sitting on the bench near the stage. And? It's the 7th photo of him. The room went quiet. 7? In less than half an hour. Different locations. He'd barely photographed anyone else. My father reached for the phone. Maya, don't change or download anything. I won't. At 11:20, Perez called back. The city had locked the volunteer media folder and preserved access logs. Kyle's volunteer account showed 18 uploads. 7 centered on my father. 3 were close-ups. The timestamps tracked Dad from the festival entrance toward the stage even though Kyle's assignment was general crowd coverage. My father sat very still. Why would he follow me? I knew. But now the question no longer belonged only to my memory. At midnight, Perez told us not to contact the Carter family. The next morning, Lily's mother went on television. She cried. She described watching her daughter disappear under the water while a trained officer stood on the bank. She did not mention the life ring. She did not mention dispatch. She did not mention the rescue team arriving within minutes. Then the interviewer asked whether the family knew Sergeant Dawson before the festival. Denise looked straight into the camera. No. My father froze the video. Play that again. I did. No. 1 syllable. A testable claim. Dad looked at me. Claire. Yes. I arrested Paul Carter 4 years ago. The room tilted. What? Shoplifting investigation. He rubbed his chin. Charges were reduced. Did you remember yesterday? No. Would he remember you? Dad gave me a tired look. I put handcuffs on him. Of course he would. The Carter family had not selected a random cop. They had selected my father. That fact had never come out clearly in my first life because everyone focused on the rescue itself. This time, their own public statement had opened the door. I checked the clock. 7:18 a.m. My 24 hours were almost over. Dad stood. No more half-truths. I know. What do you know? I looked at him. Then I told him enough. Not reincarnation. Not his grave. Not the years I had already lived. I told him I had reason to believe the Carter family had targeted him before the incident. I told him their behavior at the bridge did not look spontaneous to me. I told him Kyle filming before Lily fell and labeling photos target made me think the fall might have been intended as a setup that became more dangerous than planned. Dad did not interrupt. When I finished, he asked, "How did you know before the photos?" I looked at my hands. I can't explain that in a way you'll believe. Try. I had information I can't prove. From who? I can't say. His face hardened. Claire. If I give you an impossible explanation, it could contaminate how you think about real evidence. He stared at me. That is exactly how an investigator talks when they're withholding a source. I know. Is someone in danger? I don't think so. Are you in danger? I don't know. That answer softened him slightly. He sat across from me. Fine. What? I don't like it. I know. But you're right about one thing. What? We follow what we can prove. My eyes burned. That had always been his rule. In my first life, emotion had swallowed it. This time, we had a chance to keep it. By 9:30, Internal Affairs opened an administrative review. Not because the department believed Kyle's video. Because any public allegation involving an officer required documentation. My father cooperated. The city attorney sent a preservation request to the festival. The fire department preserved its dispatch logs. The 911 center preserved the call. The Carter family's trap had depended on 30 seconds of video. By noon, there were already 5 independent records covering the same 30 seconds from different angles. Then Lily woke fully. And the story changed again. Lily's first formal statement was taken at the hospital the following afternoon. She was 17, so her parents were present. The fire department investigator asked basic questions. Why had she crossed the barricade? Had she intended to enter the water? Did she know the river was under a high water advisory? Lily said she had only gone down to take a picture. Denise said the same thing. Paul said Lily slipped unexpectedly. Kyle said he had begun filming only after she screamed. That last claim was already false. The preserved volunteer media folder proved he had been filming and photographing our location well before the fall. Still, one lie did not prove the entire event was staged. I kept reminding myself of that. I knew the truth from another life. The investigators did not. They had to build it honestly. 3 days after the incident, Dad's attorney, Helen Price, came to our house. She was a former prosecutor who had represented police officers in administrative and civil matters for 15 years. She looked at my father and said, "You did one thing extremely well." What? You listened to dispatch. Dad leaned back. That was Claire. Helen glanced at me. She made you listen? She physically blocked me. Helen's eyebrows rose. I'm not sure whether to congratulate her or bill her. I almost smiled. Then she opened her folder. The Carter attorney sent a demand letter. All ready. She also showed us a preservation notice that her office and the city attorney had sent to Carter Council that morning. It specifically required the family to preserve Kyle's festival account, phones, cloud data, messages, and original media files. Receipt had been acknowledged. That mattered if anyone tried to delete something now. My stomach tightened. How much? Dad asked. $2 million. He laughed once. Helen did not. They allege you intentionally withheld rescue despite specialized training. I do not have specialized water rescue training. We know. They also allege Claire interfered with your duty. I was off duty. We know. Then what exactly are they claiming? They are building a negligence theory and threatening a federal civil rights claim. Dad stared at her. That makes no sense. Not all demand letters need to make sense. She tapped the page. They need to create settlement pressure. That was how it had started before. The city feared headlines. The family wanted leverage. Except this time, Helen turned to the second page. They made a mistake. What? They attached a medical summary. I frowned. Why is that a mistake? Because one listed injury predates the river incident. She slid the document across the table. Left shoulder instability, recurrent. Dad read it. The dislocation. Yes. The family statement says I caused it pulling her out. Correct. But I never touched her. Exactly. The rescue swimmer and paramedics had handled Lily. My father had not made physical contact with her at any point. The entire allegation that he injured her during extraction could not exist this time. The old script had lost its main scene. So the Carter family had improvised. Their demand letter now claimed Dad's delay caused Lily to struggle longer in the current, worsening a pre-existing shoulder condition. More subtle. Harder to disprove emotionally. But still dependent on timing. How long from 911 call to rescue contact? I asked. Helen checked her notes. 3 minutes, 42 seconds. Dad looked at me. In my head it felt like 20. It always does, Helen said. Dispatch received the call at 1 hour 52 minutes and 11 seconds. Water unit arrived at 1 hour 55 minutes and 7 seconds. Rescuer made contact at 1 hour 55 minutes and 53 seconds. She continued. The fire department's preliminary assessment says entering without a personal flotation device or tether would have created significant rescuer risk. My father rubbed his jaw. So I did what I was supposed to do. Yes. Then why are we still talking? Because the internet does not wait for preliminary assessments. Helen looked at me. And because someone wants this case to be about moral failure rather than rescue protocol. I knew who. At that moment, my phone buzzed. Maya. Maya, Claire. Maya, Kyle deleted his volunteer account. I showed Helen. She sighed. Deletion after preservation is not useful to him. The city already had the data. More importantly, the deletion itself became part of the timeline. That evening, a local news station obtained the full 911 audio through a public records request. They aired part of it. Do not enter the water. Water rescue is already assigned. My voice identified the location clearly. Dad's voice could be heard directing Lily toward the life ring. The online narrative split. Some people apologized. Some doubled down. A new accusation appeared. Why did the daughter know exactly what to do? That is suspicious. Maybe they staged the rescue for publicity. I stared at that comment longer than I should have. There was no version of reality immune to people determined to invent one. Dad took my phone. Stop reading. I need to know what they're saying. No, investigators need to know what matters. That sounds like hypocrisy from a man who reads comments under police stories. I contain multitudes. I laughed despite myself. He put the phone on top of the refrigerator. You are not 6. Then why are you confiscating my phone? Because you're acting 12. The ordinary argument steadied me. This was what I was saving. Not just his life. This. Bad jokes. Annoying advice. Coffee mugs. Arguments about phones. On Thursday, Denise Carter filed a civilian complaint with the police department. She accused Dad of refusing to perform a rescue because of personal hostility toward our family. That phrase changed everything. Personal hostility. The complaint itself admitted prior contact. Internal Affairs investigator Monica Shaw noticed immediately. During her interview, she asked Denise how Sergeant Dawson could have personal hostility toward a family he supposedly did not know. Denise claimed she meant hostility in the moment. Then Shaw asked whether Paul had previously been arrested by Dad. Denise said she could not remember. Paul remembered. He had to. Court records existed. The arrest had happened outside a hardware store 4 years earlier. Dad responded to a shoplifting call. Paul became argumentative. Dad handcuffed him after he tried to leave. Charges were later reduced to a municipal theft violation after restitution. Nothing dramatic. But the body camera footage from that arrest contained one line that suddenly mattered. Paul, seated on the curb, had looked up at my father and said, "People like you think that badge means you can do whatever you want." Dad had answered, "No, it means I have to document what I do." For years later, documentation was saving him. The Carter family's attorney revised their public statement. They acknowledged a prior negative encounter but denied targeting Dad. Then Lily's school counselor called the police. Not because anyone pressured her. Because she had seen the news and remembered something. A week before the festival, Lily had asked whether participating in a social experiment for a family legal case could affect college applications. The counselor had assumed she meant a mock trial assignment. Now she was not sure. Internal Affairs referred that information to the county investigator handling possible fraud and obstruction issues. Still, it was only a clue. No one had the family chat from my first life. Not yet. I began to fear we never would. Rebirth did not guarantee the same evidence survived. Kyle might not replace his phone. The shared tablet might never be sold. The cloud backup might remain buried. We needed this life's evidence. On Friday morning, Dad was placed on paid administrative duty while the review continued. He hated it. I did everything right. I know. I didn't even touch her. I know. I stood on the bank and threw a life ring. I know. He paced the kitchen. And I'm still sitting home. Procedure. He glared at me. Do not use my own words against me. Then stop teaching me good words. He almost smiled. Then he sank into a chair. This is what you were afraid of. I sat beside him. Part of it. What's the other part? I looked at his right hand. Steady. Healthy. You getting hurt. His expression softened. I'm not hurt. I know. For a moment, I let myself feel that victory. Then his phone rang. Helen. She had received a copy of the Carter family's formal demand. The document alleged Dad had recklessly delayed rescue for more than 10 minutes. 10 minutes. The official timeline showed 3 minutes and 42 seconds from call to contact. That is not a rounding error, Helen said. Where did they get 10? Dad asked. Good question. The volunteer records, the false public claim that the Carters did not know Dad, and the demand's impossible timeline had given the county investigator enough to seek narrowly scoped access to records connected to the planned claim. That afternoon, a judge authorized preservation of the family cloud data and forensic production of documents directly related to Sergeant Dawson and the festival. The first return contained a document history. A draft civil complaint had been created at 11:36 a.m. On the day of the festival. 2 hours and 16 minutes before Lily entered the water. I stared at Helen's laptop. No one spoke. The file name was Carter_Dawson_complaint_draft. Dad's face changed slowly. They had my name in it. Yes. Before she fell. Yes. Helen's voice was careful. This is extremely significant. I could barely breathe. In my first life, I had waited years for a forgotten cloud backup. This time, investigators had a lawful path to the same kind of evidence before anyone could erase it. Helen warned us not to discuss the draft publicly. Evidence was strongest before people had time to build excuses around it. The next morning, Paul posted a long message online. He claimed the draft was merely a general complaint template prepared because the family had concerns about police conduct after his earlier arrest. He insisted Lily's fall was an accident. He insisted they had no plan to involve Dad. Then he made another mistake. He wrote, "We did not even know Sergeant Dawson would be at the festival until we saw him near the stage around 1:30. The volunteer media records showed Kyle had photographed Dad at 1:18 and continued tracking him through the festival long before 1:30. The family's new explanation moved the contradiction but did not erase it. At noon, police executed a separate device warrant for Kyle's phone and other locally stored records tied to the festival plan. No one told us what they found. Dad spent the afternoon trimming the hedge. He had always worked when he was angry. I sat on the porch with lemonade and watched his shoulders move. Healthy. Strong. Alive. "You're staring again," he said. I'm allowed. It's creepy. You'll survive. He stopped trimming. That joke was terrible. I learned from you. He pointed the clippers at me. Defamation. I laughed. Then I started crying. He lowered the clippers. Hey. I'm okay. You keep saying that. He sat beside me. For a while, neither of us spoke. Finally he said, "Whatever you knew, you saved me from doing something stupid. You would have been trying to help. Helping can still be stupid." I looked at him. He nodded toward the river in the distance. I keep replaying it. Me too. My body wanted to go. I know. I was furious at you for stopping me. I know. Then the rescue boat came. He rubbed his hands together. And I realized if I had gone in, they might have had 2 people to pull out. My throat tightened. That's what I was trying to prevent. He looked at me for a long moment. Thank you. I could not answer. He put an arm around my shoulders. For the first time since waking in this life, I let myself believe we might actually escape. Then, on Sunday night, Lily disappeared from her parents' house. At 11:17 p.m. Dad's phone rang. He was still technically on administrative duty, so he did not answer as an officer. The call came from Perez. Lily Carter is missing. Dad stood from the couch. When? Parents say she went upstairs around 8. Phone? Left behind. Vehicle? She doesn't drive. Any indication where she'd go? Not yet. Dad looked at me. I knew nothing about this. In my first life, Lily never disappeared. The future had split completely. What do you need from me? Dad asked. Nothing operational. Perez's voice was firm. I'm telling you because if she contacts you, call us immediately. Understood. He hung up. I felt sick. Do you think they hurt her? Dad shook his head. We do not speculate. I know. No, you don't. He pointed at me. You're already building a movie in your head. He was right. I forced myself to stop. At 12:03 a.m. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I froze. The message said, "Please don't tell them where I am." A second message. "I need to talk to you." I showed Dad immediately. He called Perez. Within minutes, an investigator took over the exchange. They instructed me to respond without promising secrecy. Me, are you safe? Unknown, yes. Me, is this Lily? Unknown, yes. Me, how did you get my number? Lily, Kyle found your work number online when he was looking up your dad. Lily, I memorized it before I left. That explained it. I used the same number for public work calls. Me, police are looking for you because your family reported you missing. Lily, I know. Me, tell them you are safe. Lily, they'll make me go back. Me, if you're afraid to go home, tell the investigator that. Lily, I can't talk to cops. Me, you contacted the daughter of one. Lily, you stopped him. I stared at the words. Me, yes. Lily, why? I looked at Dad. He nodded. Me, because entering that water without equipment could have killed him. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Returned. Lily, it almost killed me. Me, I know. Lily, it wasn't supposed to. My skin prickled. Dad closed his eyes. The investigator sitting on speaker with us said quietly, "Do not lead her." I typed, "Me, what do you mean?" Lily, I was supposed to go down the bank and yell. Lily, I wasn't supposed to fall that far. Lily, Mom said Dad would make sure the camera got it. Lily, Kyle said your dad would jump. My hands shook. The investigator said, "Ask where she is." Me, where are you? Lily, I'm safe. Me, we need to know that for sure. Lily, bus station. Me, which one? She gave the location. Officers found her 14 minutes later. She was sitting inside an all-night terminal with a backpack, borrowed phone, and $43. She refused to go home. Because she was a minor, Child Protective Services became involved. Her parents arrived furious. Lily began crying when she saw them. That reaction did not prove abuse. But it was enough for authorities to arrange a temporary alternative placement while they assessed the situation. The next day, Lily gave a recorded interview with a juvenile advocate present. Her parents were not in the room. I was not there. Dad was not there. No one told us the full content. We learned only that the county prosecutor expanded the investigation. The Carter family's attorney stopped giving interviews. Kyle deleted his social accounts. Paul's long public post disappeared. Silence replaced outrage. Online, people called that suspicious. I did not. Sometimes lawyers simply told clients to stop talking. Silence was not guilt. The evidence still had to do the work. On Tuesday, Dad's administrative review moved faster than expected. Internal Affairs had received the fire department's rescue assessment. It concluded that an unprotected bystander entering the river at that location would have faced a high risk of entrapment, collision, and downstream submersion. The safest available immediate action for a non-water rescue responder had been to call the specialized unit, deploy throwable flotation, maintain visual contact, and direct the victim. That was exactly what Dad had done. Monica Shaw called him. "We are separating your conduct review from the Carter fraud investigation." Meaning? Meaning we have enough to make a preliminary finding on your actions. Dad looked at me. And? You acted within reasonable safety practice. He closed his eyes. Am I cleared? The final memo still needs command review. Monica. Her voice softened. Yes. On the rescue issue, I expect you to be cleared. Dad sat down. For a few seconds, he said nothing. Then he laughed. A short, disbelieving sound. I went into the kitchen because I did not want him to see me cry. He followed. Claire. I'm fine. Sure. He opened the refrigerator, took out 2 sodas, and handed me one. You know what I want to do? What? Go fishing. I almost dropped the can. In my first life, after the injury, he had sold his fishing gear. The rods had sat in the garage for months before he finally admitted his right hand could no longer manage the reel. Today? Tomorrow. You're on administrative duty. That means I have time. I laughed through tears. Then yes. We went to the lake Wednesday morning. A safe lake. Flat water. Life jackets. A public dock. Dad made a point of checking both flotation devices twice. Traumatized? I asked. Educated. We caught nothing. It was perfect. On Thursday afternoon, Helen called with the first details from the electronic search. They found the family group chat. My whole body went still. Dad turned off the television. How much? Enough. Helen's tone stayed controlled. Do not discuss this outside privileged communication. We won't. She read only what had been disclosed to City Council because it related directly to Dad. 4 days before the festival, Denise wrote, "If Dawson is there, we use Plan B. Kyle, what if he isn't? Paul, he usually goes with his daughter. Lily, I don't want to actually get in the water. Denise, you don't have to. Just make it look like you slipped and need help. Kyle, I'll get him crossing the barrier. Paul, once he touches you, keep saying your shoulder hurts. Lily, what if he doesn't come? Denise, he will. He's a cop." My father stood and walked to the window. Helen continued. The morning of the festival, Kyle got volunteer media access. Denise, perfect. Paul, find him first. At 1:19, Kyle found him. Photo attached. At 1:44, Kyle, target by stage. At 1:47, Denise, wait until bridge volunteer moves. At 1:49, Lily, I hate this. Denise. 30 seconds. At 1:50, Paul, go. My father put both hands on the window frame. I could see his shoulders shaking. Helen stopped reading. Michael? I'm here. The prosecutor has more. I'm only giving you the portion relevant to your case. Dad turned. What happened after she fell? Helen hesitated. Then, At 1:52, Kyle, she actually fell. At 1:52, Denise, film. At 1:53, Paul, why isn't he jumping? At 1:53, Denise, his daughter. At 1:54, Kyle, get him refusing. Dad closed his eyes. No one spoke. The trap was not an inference anymore. It was written in their own words. And even then, the story was more complicated than simple villains. Lily had objected. She had participated anyway. She had crossed the barrier. She had intended to fake distress. But she had not intended to drown. The adults had pressured her. Kyle had treated the whole thing like content. The river had made every lie real. Dad finally asked, why? Helen took a breath. The messages suggest the family had been discussing a civil claim strategy tied to Paul's prior arrest. 4 years later? Apparently they had consulted an attorney at the time and were told there was no viable claim. That arrest was clean. I know. They waited 4 years to fake a rescue complaint? Not exactly. She shuffled papers. They appear to have made several opportunistic claims involving businesses and property owners since then. My stomach tightened. Other staged accidents? Potentially exaggerated or manufactured incidents. Are there charges? Not yet. Helen emphasized the word. Do not get ahead of the prosecutor. Dad looked at me. This was another difference from my first life. Then, the Carter family settlement had been treated as an isolated conflict. No one had looked backward until much later. Now investigators had reason to compare patterns before any settlement. The county also found 3 earlier claims involving the Carter family that had ended in private payments. None proved fraud by itself, but together they gave investigators a reason to examine motive and pattern. The River case no longer depended on pattern anyway. The group chat showed the plan. The complaint draft showed preparation. The volunteer server showed Kyle tracking my father. The 911 system showed Dad following rescue instructions. Once the chat was authenticated, prosecutors charged Paul and Denise with offenses tied to attempted fraud and reckless endangerment, while Kyle faced related charges for his role in filming and planning. Lily's situation was handled separately because she was a minor who had participated under family pressure and later cooperated. The news stations that had aired Kyle's edited clip now displayed the verified timeline from the complaint draft through the rescue. People online called it an overnight collapse. From inside, it still felt slow. But for once, my father was not standing alone beneath an accusation. He was standing behind records. On Friday, Internal Affairs formally cleared him of misconduct. The memo stated that he had used available life-saving equipment, complied with emergency dispatch instructions, assisted professional rescuers, and avoided creating an additional casualty. The department returned him to full duty Monday. At roll call, the other officers applauded. He hated it. I knew because he called me afterward. They clapped. That's nice. It was horrifying. You survived. Barely. Heroic. Do not start. I laughed. Then he said, Claire. Yeah. I know you still haven't told me everything. My smile faded. I know. When you're ready. That was all. No pressure. No accusation. Just trust. I had saved him from the river. Now he was giving me time to decide how much of another life I could place inside this one. The criminal case took 8 months to reach a preliminary public hearing. By then, Lily had turned 18. She lived with an aunt in another county and finished high school remotely. She sent me one letter. I did not open it for 3 days. When I finally did, the handwriting was small and uneven. Claire, you did what I should have done. You stopped someone you loved from doing something dangerous, even when they were angry at you. I wish someone had done that for me before the river. I am not asking you to forgive me. I knew my family wanted to create a scene. I agreed to go down the bank. I thought I could control it. I thought no one would really get hurt. When I fell, I understood how stupid that was. Your dad threw the ring. I remember hearing him. I remember your voice too. I also remember my mom yelling for him to jump after dispatch said not to. I knew then they cared more about the plan than what it might do to him. Maybe that is why I ran. I am sorry. Lily. I read it twice. Then I put it in a drawer. Forgiveness did not arrive like a switch. Neither did hatred. What I felt was sadder than either. A 17-year-old had been taught that using danger was normal if the payoff was big enough. She had agreed. Then the danger had become real. I could hold both truths. She was harmed. She had also helped harm someone else. That complexity did not weaken accountability. It made it honest. The public hearing was scheduled for February. Helen told us we did not need to attend every day. Dad wanted to. So do I said. He looked at me. Why? Because last time, I wasn't there when the truth came out. The words escaped before I could stop them. His eyes sharpened. Last time? I froze. He waited. I looked at the courthouse steps through the windshield. Snow was piled gray along the curb. In my first life, he had died in snow. My throat closed. After this, I said. After what? After the hearing. He nodded slowly. Okay. Inside, the courtroom was smaller than television made courtrooms look. No dramatic spotlight. No shouting gallery. Just wood benches, fluorescent light, attorneys, folders, and people waiting for procedure. The prosecution's theory was simple. The Carters planned to manufacture a visually compelling police misconduct event to support a fraudulent civil claim. They targeted my father because of Paul's prior arrest and because his identity made a city settlement plausible. They expected Lily to fake a minor fall near the water. They expected Dad to cross the restricted barrier and physically grab her. They prepared a complaint in advance. They instructed Kyle to film. When Lily accidentally entered the river and faced real danger, they continued recording and pressured Dad to enter despite professional rescue already responding. Afterward, they edited the footage and submitted claims based on a version of events contradicted by records. The defense attacked every link. The complaint draft was only a template. Target was a photography file name. The group chat was dark humor. Lily acted independently. Denise's shouting reflected a terrified mother, not a fraud plan. Paul's prior arrest created understandable mistrust, not motive for conspiracy. Kyle filmed because young people film everything. Each explanation was possible in isolation. Together, they strained. The prosecutor then tied the records together without pretending any single item proved the case by itself. The pre-event complaint draft named Sergeant Michael Dawson and anticipated physical contact at the old bridge. Kyle's volunteer registration and geotagged uploads showed that he had tracked Dad across the festival before Lily went near the barricade. The family chat supplied the missing context: wait for the bridge volunteer to move, create a 30-second scene, film Dad's response. A forensic examiner authenticated the records through the family cloud account. Kyle's seized phone, matching hashes, timestamps, and network logs. No evidence showed later alteration. The prosecutor did not ask the court to trust Lily alone. That mattered. Her testimony came last among the major evidence, not first. When she took the stand, she looked smaller than I remembered. She did not look at her parents. The prosecutor asked whether she had agreed to participate in a staged incident. Yes. Did you intend to enter the river? No. What did you intend to do? Go down the embankment, pretend I slipped, yell, and let Sergeant Dawson come toward me. Why? My parents said if he crossed the barrier and grabbed me, Kyle would film it. For what purpose? To make a complaint. Did they discuss money? Yes. How much? They said the city would pay to make it disappear. The defense objected to phrasing. The judge handled it. The prosecutor continued. Were you forced? Lily swallowed. No. That answer surprised some people. I was pressured, but I agreed. Her honesty strengthened her more than pretending she had no agency. Why did you agree? Because I thought it was fake. She looked toward the floor. I thought no one would really get hurt. What happened? I slipped. Her voice broke. The mud gave way. She took a breath. I hit the water and couldn't get back. Did Sergeant Dawson do nothing? No. What did he do? He threw a ring. Did you reach it? No. Did you hear a dispatcher? Yes. What did you hear? Not to enter the water. Did your family continue telling Sergeant Dawson to enter? Yes. Why? The defense objected that she could not know their state of mind. Sustained. The prosecutor rephrased. What did you hear your mother say? Jump in. And your father? He said Sergeant Dawson had a duty. And your brother? He said he wasn't trying. Was Sergeant Dawson trying? Lily looked at my father for the first time. Yes. Dad lowered his eyes. The defense cross-examined hard. They showed messages where Lily joked about the plan. They showed her asking what clothes to wear. They showed her suggesting fake crying. She admitted all of it. Then the defense attorney asked, so you were not merely a victim of your parents? Lily's hands tightened. No. You were an active participant. Yes. And now, after facing consequences, you are blaming them. Lily looked toward Denise. Then Paul. Then back at the attorney. I'm blaming myself too. The answer ended the attack more effectively than anger would have. The hearing lasted 4 days. At the end, the judge found sufficient evidence to proceed on the major charges. No dramatic gavel. No gasps. Just legal findings. The case would continue. But the civil demand against my father had already collapsed. The Carter attorney formally withdrew it. The city issued a public statement confirming Dad had been cleared of misconduct. The local station aired the full rescue timeline. Kyle's original 38-second clip remained online in reposts, but beneath it people now linked the 911 audio and rescue report. Context had finally caught up. That night, Dad and I went home. He took 2 beers from the refrigerator. He handed me one. You said after the hearing. I knew what he meant. I sat at the kitchen table. The same table where I had woken to find him alive. I told him. All of it. I did not make it sound reasonable. There was no reasonable way to say that I had watched him die once already. I told him about the first river. I told him he jumped. I told him Lily survived. I told him the family used the rescue against him. I told him about the injury in his shoulder and the nerve damage in his hand. I told him about administrative leave, resignation, the settlement, and the years he spent believing people saw him as a monster. I told him about the snow. I told him about the heart attack. I told him about his funeral. By the time I reached the cloud backup and the family chat, I could barely speak. Dad sat across from me without moving. His beer stayed unopened. When I finished, the kitchen clock sounded unbearably loud. He looked down at his hands. Healthy hands. Then he flexed the fingers of his right one. You said I couldn't hold a coffee mug. Not reliably. He flexed them again. That's a very specific thing to invent. I know. You said I sold my fishing gear. Yes. Who bought it? I blinked. What? Who bought it? Mr. Thompson from the bait shop took the rods on consignment. His face changed. Mr. Thompson had not yet bought or sold anything in this life. There was no reason I should have picked that detail. Dad leaned back. Jesus. I laughed once through tears. That was approximately my reaction. He rubbed both hands over his face. So you woke up that morning knowing? Yes. That Lily would go into the river. Yes. That her family planned something. Yes. That I would jump. Yes. And that I would die years later because of what followed. My throat closed. Yes. He stood and walked to the sink. For a second, I thought he was angry. Then he gripped the counter. His shoulders shook. I had almost never seen my father cry. Not at my grandmother's funeral. Not when his partner retired. Not even when my mother left when I was 9. But he cried now. Quietly. I went to him. He turned and pulled me against his chest. I'm sorry. The words shocked me. For what? For dying on you. A sob tore out of me. You didn't choose it. I know. You were trying to help. I know. I was so angry at you. I know. I hated that you jumped. He held the back of my head. You were right to stop me. We stood in the kitchen for a long time. Finally he pulled away and wiped his face with the heel of his hand. So what now? What do you mean? Do we spend the rest of our lives waiting for the next thing you remember? I shook my head. I don't know what comes next. Nothing? The timeline changed too much. He nodded. That might be good. It is. He opened his beer. Then mine. To ignorance. I laughed. To ignorance. We drank. For the first time, not knowing the future felt like freedom. The criminal case took months rather than days. Paul and Denise eventually accepted plea agreements that included fraud-related and reckless endangerment consequences, restitution, and court supervision. Kyle faced separate consequences for his role and for deleting evidence after preservation instructions. Lily's juvenile case focused on counseling, supervision, and restitution because she had been a minor, had nearly died, and had cooperated. The details were less cinematic than strangers online wanted. That was fine. The point was never to watch the Carter family suffer. The point was that my father no longer carried what they had done. Lily graduated and later wrote that she hoped to build a life where no one needed to be endangered for her to feel safe. I answered that I hoped so too. My father stayed with the department. He did not become more reckless because he had been vindicated. He became more careful. He volunteered to help revise off-duty emergency response guidance. The training emphasized exactly what the river had taught us. Call the right resource. Use available equipment. Do not enter a hazardous environment without necessary protection. Do not create an additional casualty. He showed me the draft policy one evening. You realize this is the least glamorous legacy possible. I read the heading. Scene safety during off-duty rescue events. I love it. You would. It's beautiful. It's 6 pages of liability language. Poetry. He shook his head. I framed the final page after the policy was adopted. He threatened to disown me. He did not. The following May, the Riverfront Spring Festival returned with stronger barriers, more life rings, and a dedicated water rescue post near the old bridge. I bought 2 concert tickets. Dad stared at them. You really want to go back? I don't want the river to own the day. So we went. At 1:43, the old file-name Target flashed through my memory. I put my phone away. Dad noticed. You okay? Yes. At 1:50, we stood near the bridge. No one crossed the barrier. No one screamed. The minute passed. Then another. The future kept moving. Dad leaned on the railing. I used to think the hardest part of the job was deciding when to act. What do you think now? Knowing when not to. I smiled. The river taught both of us. Fair. We stayed until sunset. When we left, he tossed me the truck keys. You drive. That sounds familiar. It should. I caught them. His right hand moved easily. No tremor. No weakness. Just a careless toss from a man who expected to use that hand tomorrow. I stared at the keys for a second. Dad frowned. Claire? I'm coming. We walked toward the parking lot. Behind us, the river moved under the bridge, indifferent to every story people had tried to build around it. In my first life, I thought saving someone meant reaching them first. I thought courage meant entering the danger. I thought love meant refusing to stand still while someone else suffered. Those beliefs were not entirely wrong. They were simply incomplete. Sometimes courage was stepping forward. Sometimes it was throwing the ring. Sometimes it was calling people with the training and equipment you did not have. Sometimes it was putting both hands on the person you loved and saying no while they were furious with you. My father had spent his career teaching me that evidence mattered more than accusation. In my second life, I learned the same was true of responsibility. Feeling responsible did not make something yours. Being capable did not create an obligation to sacrifice yourself. Wearing a badge did not make a human body stronger than a flooded river. And loving someone did not mean letting them become the victim another person had already chosen. The Carter family had built their plan around one assumption. Michael Dawson would jump. They had tried to turn his instinct to help into a weapon against him. This time, I had changed only one essential thing. I refused to let him become the second person in need of rescue. Everything else had come from records, witnesses, and the Carters' own choices. That was the part one carried with me. Not the headlines. Not the charges. Not the comments from strangers who suddenly decided my father was a hero after calling him a coward. Those things changed too quickly to trust. What mattered was smaller. His coffee mug in his right hand. Fishing line sliding smoothly through his fingers. His badge clipped to his belt on Monday mornings. His terrible humming in the kitchen. The trap keys flying toward me at sunset. A year ago, I had stood at his grave holding proof that arrived too late. Now I stood beside him in a parking lot arguing about where to eat dinner. He wanted burgers. I wanted Thai. He accused me of abusing my second chance at life. I told him that was not how reincarnation worked. He almost drove into a curb. Then he pulled over. You cannot say things like that while I'm driving. You know it's true now. I am still adjusting. You had a year. I had 53 years of not believing my daughter had traveled backward through time. Skill issue. He stared at me. What does that even mean? I laughed until my stomach hurt. He shook his head and drove on. The river disappeared behind us. I did not look back. Not because I had forgotten it. Because I no longer needed to watch it to make sure my father was still alive. He was beside me. Complaining. Breathing. Planning dinner. Moving forward. And this time, so was I.